Just the second day of pads out here at training camp with the Panthers. Julian Council from LockedOn Panthers. Julian, we saw a lot of competition today. It seems like that was the theme, that things are really taking that step up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave Canales told us after practice that he kind of liked the competitive nature that we saw from the second day of pads, where this was the longest practice that they've had so far out here. And there was a couple plays. JC got an interception, punted it. Shuba Hubbard had another touchdown, punted it. Dave's like, we don't want those kind of plays, but we do love it, though, with the competitiveness. So that's good to see, because I think that's something that people questioned about this team early last season, whether they could have that competitive nature. Then we saw it towards the second half of the year, where they finished off with a 4-5 record in those final 9 games. We saw Bryce extend, even when the defense was struggling, that they didn't back down. And we've seen that carry over so far this year. So that, to me, is a positive. And certainly if the coach is thinking that's a positive, then I don't think we can argue with it.
One of the biggest things we've all been keeping our eye on, of course, has been the receivers. Hunter Renfrow seemed like he had a vet day. He was in street close today. All eyes, though, on T-Mac once again. Another one-handed catch. He and Bryce seem like that connection is just building each day.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what people wanted to see. I know I've been asked plenty of times by fans out there what I was seeing from T-Mac, and I've told them I really haven't seen him stand out that much. And Dave Canales mentioned as well that he's kind of had an up-and-down camp, that he's had some of those rookie struggles. I think the physicality of a guy like Mike Jackson in one-on-ones a couple of times has been something he struggled with. But today, going up against J.C. Horn, had multiple great catches, including the one diving catch he had way down there. So that's good to see. And Dave even said that he felt like it was his best practice, and I felt like even after what I had seen that certainly was the case. And he's going to be a guy with a very crowded receiver room. I know Hunter Renfrow right now apparently dealing with a hamstring. We'll see how long that keeps him out, but Adam Thielen coming back, and also having Xavier Legette, who should probably make a next step this upcoming season, Jalen Coker, being able to stand out in that room is going to be important, especially for a guy who's a top 10 pick. So we first kind of got to see that today. So that's great news for this offense, and I think great news also for T-Mac as he gets more integrated into what they're trying to do here in Carolina.
As Bryce is also developing, he's doing it behind a continually developing offensive line. We've seen, of course, a lot of those guys back again. After today's training camp practice, we just heard from Taylor Motton, and that to me was one of the most interesting parts of today. He got up there and was actually a little bit emotional, talking about his own personal situation. He's been with this team since 2017 when he was drafted, and he's now going into a final year of his contract where he doesn't know exactly what the future holds. Seeing someone like that, especially someone on an offensive line, getting emotional about how much they love this team, this city, that's got to be a good sign, I guess, of like a heartbeat of a team, right?
Absolutely, and I think fans would love that, just to hear how much it means to them to be here in Carolina and just how much the city means to them overall. And it's tough, even from our perspective, to sit there and to watch another human being just get emotional about whether they're going to get to stay here. And that was a conversation about the offseason with them playing on that $31 million cap hit. And Brandt Tillis, the Panthers EVP of football operations who handles caps and contracts, he had said way back then that they were comfortable with Taylor playing on that cap hit and being able to do all they could do this offseason. So we'll see how it plays out. He's been one of the most consistent offensive linemen's right tackles really in the NFC and in the league since he's been a starter here, and he's been able to stay healthy aside from the 3 games he missed last year. So we'll see how it plays out, but he certainly has been a leader. He's been someone who's been a part of this community over the last 7+ years, and it will be weird to see next year if number 72 is not Taylor Motton out here in pads.
On the other side of the line, we also were talking about Icky's situation with his contract. You just mentioned Brandt Tillis. He had some pretty interesting things to say if we're talking money when it comes to the Panthers right now. So what do you make of what he had to say about Icky in terms of, yes, they did just talk about bringing him on for that option year, but they're going to kind of wait out to see how he does because they see him as a player more on the rise.
Yeah, I found that to be interesting that he does not feel, and these are his words, he does not believe that Icky is up for a contract right now, which if you look at in recent years, Derek Brown with J.C. Horn, the Panthers have gone and tagged him, let them play on that 4th year, and before they've even gotten to the franchise tag, or the 5th-year option rather, like with JC this year, they've given him an extension. So I'm kind of curious if that's going to be the same cadence that they take of Icky, where he's been exercise of the 5th option, and now he's going to play his 4th year. And if he continues to ascend like they think, well, then he get a big deal. And they said they want to do things early. So I suppose early for them is maybe after their 4th season, especially for first-rounders going into that 5th-year option, that's enough time to where they don't want to wait until you're in a situation where, I guess with Brian Burns we saw last year, you may have to move off of a player because you're not able to get those contract conversations the way that you want him to. So I found it very interesting and enlightening what he said about Icky, but also what he said about Taylor, and also just saying how it's difficult for him as a guy who handles caps and contracts to be able to take away the emotion when handling with the players and with their agents. So we'll see how that materializes with the two bookend tackles here in Carolina.
Talking about doing things early, he does have some experience, though, doing it in his last job in Kansas City. He was talking about how in Patrick Mahomes' second year after they made it to the AFC Championship, they gave him that big contract. A little bit of a different situation for Bryce, though.
Yeah, and Pat made it pretty easy for Kansas City. I don't think they had much of a choice there, but and had to get in early, too, not to spend too much money, even though, of course, he set records of that contract. Yeah, with Bryce, I think it still comes down to what he's going to do on the field this year. And I would agree that it's probably a little bit too early to really have those conversations. I think Brandt even said earlier back in the offseason that they're not quite there yet with Bryce, and you have to go back to we're not even that a year removed from him being benched after the first 2 games, and, of course, he ended last season really well back week 18 in January against Atlanta. So if he continues to play like that, I would think that at the very least he gets the 5th-year option. I would be surprised unless Bryce leads this team to the NFC title game and they get to the potential of the Super Bowl. I'd be very surprised if he plays the way Mahomes played that year as well. Be very surprised if they come to terms of a deal for him as far as a big-time extension this upcoming offseason. But certainly if the things head into the way they headed after the end of last season, then yeah, he should be a guy who's probably going to get that 5th-year option, and we'll see how things play out heading to year 4 in 2026.
All right, so next up, the Panthers will be taking an off day on Thursday, and then Saturday, Dave Canales gave a little plug at the end for FanFest. He said it will be as legitimate of a practice out there as anyone can expect. So he wants them to be full out. He's wanting fans to really come out and see this team because, of course, here we are with all the construction, and fans haven't been able to get a look at the team yet. Yeah,
and pads will be on. So, folks, you're not coming out to watch them in shorts and a T-shirt. It's going to be an intense practice and being back together inside Bank of America Stadium in a long time. So excited to see what the sights and scenes on Saturday night and for everyone to get out there and get to check them out, even though it's been a little bit peaceful not having you all around, but we, of course, miss you, and I'm sure the team misses you and that energy as well.
All right, this is Julian Council with LockedOn Panthers. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.